Hello, dear friends. It's the 23rd of April. I'd like to congratulate the American audience. Your owner class has shown again, once more, as usual, that priorities are not you. It's not your southern border and the invasion that's continuing on, the demographic, criminal, and possibly pseudo-military invasion that continues on. It's not about you. It's not about anything you need. It's not about your broken cities, your crumbling infrastructure, your 21% illiteracy rate, the over 1,000 derailments that happened last year, train derailments, and so on and so on. It's about Ukraine. Or rather, it's not even about Ukraine. It's about the donor class that's going to get rich off of Ukraine. Sure, Ukraine's going to get about 16 billion of that. Zelensky and his bunch will steal about a third, and then the rest will go into whatever it'll go into in Ukraine. And a lot more people in Ukraine will die at the end of the day. And they were waving Ukrainian flags. They don't wave your own American flags. They'll wave Ukrainian flags. If you haven't understood that you are nothing but a mind, if to them you're nothing but a mindless, rightless peasant, and this should have been a damn good wake-up call. But again, probably about half the American population will be asleep no matter what, if their own kids are getting raped by Joe Biden and company. But hey, that's what peasants are for. The ones that don't ever wake up. They don't even understand they're peasants. Serfs. Peasants had rights. Serfs actually had slaves. No rights. Only to feed the owner class and the donor class. So that's America. And America's confiscated the Russian assets. They were frozen. Now they're going to be confiscated. Which shows, again, investment in America is a bullet in the head. You either invest by buying off America's politicians, or you risk one day waking up and having all your funds confiscated because they always need the money. Of course, most of that money that they're confiscating, it isn't going to Ukraine. That's not going to get pulled out of those funds. Because if they pull out that $100 or so billion out of those funds that it's actually invested in, they'll bankrupt a whole hell of a lot of funds. So that money is actually turning. So what they're going to do is they're going to give it to the donor class. They're going to give it to BlackRock. They're going to give it to other banking systems. BlackRock owns stock in all of them. And then maybe some of the percentage will go to Ukraine. Again, after it goes through all the other filters. We will respond by more than likely confiscating various American corporation assets to that value. That's what we've told the Europeans we'll do to them too. Plus any obligations that we owe the U.S. in payments will all be confiscated and nationalized to that tune of $100-some billion. But that's a response, so that's not a hit on us. But every other nation in the world and everybody that's looking around is going to be thinking, do I really want to put money into America? No. I mean, the criminal class, which is the upper class of America, has gotten so blatant. They're not even asking for percentages. They're just going to take everything whenever they feel like it. And that's the end of at the end of the day, that's it. So obviously, there's absolutely no incentive to do anything with the U.S. And the U.S., because of this also, for most Americans who never took economics, have no concept of financing, is literally screwed beyond reality. And this was coming a long way off. Everybody saw it. I've talked about this to different people back about 7-8 years ago. You see, America is suffering from historic short-term interest rates. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the circus of finance, where the average historic short-term interest rate is around 5 to 5.5%. And America, for the last 20-something to 30 years, has been suffering from low non-historic rates. They were down around the mark of about 0 to 2%. So the U.S. government, and it's less than infinite wisdom, thank Janet Yellen too for a lot of this, they sold a lot of their debt, treasury bills, in short-term interest because it's pretty low, as opposed to long-term, 20, 30-year bonds. This was basically 5-year and less, 6 months to 5-year bonds. The majority of American debt is in that right now. It was pretty low, so you could sell it at 0% basically, or something just north of that, and win on the inflation gambit, because you're paying a lot less than inflation, and you're getting the money today and giving out worthless dollars in half a year to 5 years. Well, historic rates are called historic for a reason. It's like the floodplains in the Mississippi, where people built for 200 years, and then about 30 years ago, the flood of 100 years came along and wiped everything out, because those were the historic flood plains. They're historic for a reason. Except the historic rates in this case are something that stays a lot longer, and normally is at that average of about 5 to 5.5%. So the rates went up to 5.5%, and the American interest payments on America's debt are 1.1 trillion. I'm sorry, $1.1 trillion now. It was about 200-300 billion. It's up to 1.1 trillion. That's not knocking down the debt. That's paying the percent on the debt. Okay? And most of that short-term debt has to be resold this year. That's right, at 5.5%. Oh, it gets better, boys and girls. So the American debt at this moment is going up at about $1 trillion every 4 months. That's $4 trillion a year. But the problem is all that debt, that new debt, has to be serviced too. So you still have to pay percentages on that new debt on top of the percentage you're paying on the previous debt. See how this Ponzi scheme works? Well, I prefer to call it getting flushed down the toilet. And you're spinning around that hole, and it's getting faster and faster. By next year, that should be one additional $1 trillion every 3 months. Oh, and it gets faster than that. And the end result is, of course, the debt is going to be piling up monthly in the trillions. You see, if anybody ever bothered to take a look at the percentage rates, interest percentage rates on government debt for, I don't know, countries like, say, Greece or Italy, or any of these others have had a sovereign debt issue. Sovereign debt. Go look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Well, if you look it up, the interest rates as they go, they start out with long tail as they're slowly growing. The debt's growing, and the interest rate is growing along with the debt. Because people are rational. At least investors, most investors are rational. At least on that level. They're looking at, okay, so I give this government my money, because I know I'm going to get a percent, and I'm going to get that money back at X amount of days, N amount of days. Okay, sure. And the government seems to be pretty competent, and it seems to be pretty stable. And then, a couple of years later, you look at that and go, oh, well, that debt's tripled or quadrupled. It's gone up 3,000%. Oh, now, do I want to give my debt to this, my money to this government in debt and credit, when I'm not really sure whether they'll ever be able to pay me back? Because look, that debt was X, and now it's X times 3,000. I have a feeling they're never going to give me my money back. Now, I do want to invest my money, and they want to take my money. But, that 4 or 5%, nah. The risk is a hell of a lot higher than that. Sure, I'll give it to you for 9%. And the next guy's going to go, well, 9% is pretty damn low because they just got piled up even more debt. Let's do 11%. And that goes to 20%. That goes to 30%. Go look it up. And look how fast that grows from the average historical rate of about 5.5% to about 30, 40, 50, 100%. The alternative, of course, is just mass printing of cash, which the U.S. is doing also. The only advantage the U.S. has is as long as the U.S. dollar is a reserve currency. It's no longer the reserve currency. Some of that inflation from those extra dollars can be pumped out, exported to other countries that need those dollars for whatever reason. Well, the problem with that is, the more you do it, the less other countries want it. It gets to be too much, plus all that inflation that's floating with them. That's one of the things that's hitting the Saudis very hard. They're getting a hell of a lot worse inflation than the U.S. because they're tied to the U.S. dollar. So they've got very little incentive to be tied to the U.S. dollar. It's collapsing their economy. It causes all kinds of social issues. And so on and so on. So you get a sovereign debt issue, and you get a hyperinflation. Those usually go hand in hand. And then all you people who don't know what the hell that means are going to get a real shock for in your life. Same shock that you brought to Russia in the 90s, and the same shock that your great-grandparents remembered back in the Great Depression, which was created by hyperinflation after the crash of 29. The Great Depression started around 33. And before that, old Roosevelt was trying to do everything he could to avoid the Great Depression, and he was doing it by printing cash. Made a whole lot of money, and that didn't do anything good. So you got to inflate your currency to a certain amount if you want growth. So if you want 5% growth, you need to have about a 5% growth in currency, because people have to have money with which to pay things. I mean, that's obvious enough. If there ain't any gold in your pocket, you sure as hell can't buy anything that's for sale. So you got to find that gold somewhere. You got to print something that's called money to use. But politicians, when they're devoid of being tied to gold, silver, or hell, anything else, except trust. Trust me. I'm the U.S. government. I'm here to help. Screw you in every which way we can. They forget to tell you that part. So, you know, if you remember that, I'm getting a call that I can't seem to hang up on. Okay, there we go. So you usually get both hits at the same time, and that's called a collapsing economy. And there is no running away from this for the U.S. except for one thing: default. That means the U.S. dollar goes to nothing. They issue a new currency. Nobody particularly trusts it. Importing is going to get real hard unless the U.S. is giving up gold or something else in exchange, because nobody's going to trust the U.S. dollar. I don't know why anybody would trust the U.S. dollar now, but that'll definitely kill whatever trust is left. And then on top of that, all of you people that bought government debt, you're going to get a haircut right about the level of your neck. And if anything goes like the last time the U.S. government had that little issue, they're going to put a G-man in every bank who's going to go to your safety deposit box with you, and he's going to confiscate all your gold. Because the U.S. government in 33, 34 confiscated all gold coins. There's very few American gold coins that are in America that were prior to 1930s. Now, they minted gold coins and they sold them overseas, but gold dollars, but they confiscated everything inside, including quite a bit of jewelry, gold jewelry. And they gave paper money in exchange. So everybody says in the U.S., oh, buy gold. Yeah, that worked out real well in the 30s. Because, oh yeah, that's right, you live in a democracy that respects your rights. Just don't read history. Don't read real history. You might have a real shocking experience in that case. The reality is the U.S. government has never particularly respected anybody's rights. Look at the Whiskey Rebellion and all the other tax rebellions. Look at the militiamen that came back after the American Revolution or War of Independence, came back in Virginia and those areas to their farms to find out the farms had all been confiscated by the banks because they weren't making any loan payments while they were fighting. Whoops. Yeah, the U.S. government has a history from day one of screwing everybody. There's even a genre of songs that was forbidden by the U.S. government about that life under King George was better than under the Republic. Well, taxes were a hell of a lot lower. I mean, for God's sakes, the only taxes on the colonists in the provinces was 10% on tea. That's it. That was taxes. It didn't get better after that, that's for sure. So, Europeans are kind of buckling at that. They don't want to confiscate Russian assets. They froze them. They might try to steal the percentages off them. They don't want to confiscate them because 200 plus billion is going to be a big hit. They can't take it out of the economy and give it to Ukraine. That's a huge hit on their economies, especially considering most of their economies are in deep recessions. And they know that Russia's going to turn around and take another 200 billion of their assets. They're going to be screwed every which way. And even in Europe, I guess, and some European leaders, a limited attempt at self-preservation has decided to switch itself on. So there you go. Moving forward, well, the front is moving forward in every direction. There's rumor that American 101st Airborne and French troops are in Odessa. So far, there's nothing to confirm that. If they are, they're going to die. I mean, that's how it is. If they are in Odessa, they're all going to be killed. And there's just no 1, 2, 3 ways of getting around that. Excuse me. 1 second. Sorry about that. There were 100 French troops that were sent in from the Legion. They were sent in to Slaviansk to help set up the defenses. There were 100 French troops. I don't know how many of them are still alive, but a hell of a lot less than there were. As they were warned, they will get whacked. They got triple whacked. The moment they were spotted and it was identified where they were at, they got a couple Iskander ballistic missiles on top of their heads. And did not have a good day. Nope, not at all. And same thing's waiting for any idiot that wants to come over and play. Including all those F-16 fighter pilot veterans that I watched this podcast on were ready to fight for Zelensky. Americans were ready to volunteer, ready to get paid. But sure, your widows or your ex-wives are going to really enjoy that money. Because you're sure as hell not going to. You go up, you're going to come back down in pieces. Because bombing Iraq or bombing Afghanistan or bombing Syria and trying to bomb Russia do very, very different things. You got used to beating up on little kids and old ladies. And now you're about to get your head taken off by a baseball bat to the cranium. But hey, some people have to learn the hard way. So I guess that's how that's going to run. So that's how things are going right now. Hope everybody's staying calm, collective, actually trying to do something to keep your countries from starting World War III. But other than that, have a good day. God bless.